Welcome to the Business Trendsetter podcast, where we talk about trends and how to use them to run your business. My name is Manny Turan.
And I'm Adam Hartong.
We're Spark Partners who are here every week to discuss all things trends, all things business growth, and occasionally we talk about all things business decline, because it really helps to understand how a business works if you understand how some of them die. It's an unfortunate thing, but it happens every single day. And a lot of the things that Adam and I talk about are really foundational to why a company or how they can succeed. But the topics today are really threefold concerning some bad management, bad decisions, not following trends, bucking away from your value proposition, and lots of other things that we will look at. Adam is traveling at the moment, giving some talks in the heartland of Canada. So welcome, Adam. And let's talk, first of all, we mentioned GE about a month ago. We had a conversation about GE. What's special about today, and why is it interesting regarding GE?
Well, today is the end of General Electric. I think that's a very sad situation. The company was founded officially on April 15th, 1892. And now on April the 2nd, 2024, 132 years later, GE will be no more. And I think that's really, really sad, because GE was one of the pretty much original Dow Jones Industrial Average companies in the early days of the Dow, back at the turn of the century, the first one back in 1900. There was some movement around, so there was a couple of years that it wasn't there, but most people consider it, the longest lasting company ever. It was, without a doubt, on the Dow for longer than anybody else, even though there was some fluctuations in the early part, around 1900. But what happened to that company is really a disaster. And it's a disaster that didn't have to happen. And if you look at what we are trying to help people understand about their businesses, we can understand how terribly, terribly wrong it was mismanaged. And the results of that mismanagement were horrific. We kind of have to think about the fact that when Jack Welch took over the CEO's role of General Electric in 1980, between 1980 and the year 2000, he created more value for his shareholders than any other CEO had in the history of mankind up to that point. Well, he that 20-year stretch was just magnificent. What did Jack Welch do? Well, he never saw a business that wasn't worth buying if it was growing. He put growth first. That was where he put his mind. And so what he was always looking for is, how are you going to grow your business? Now, he was called Neutron Jack because he was really quick to make decisions. If you didn't grow your business, he was ready to sell your business in a heartbeat. If you saw something that looked like it could grow, he was ready to buy it in a heartbeat. So Neutron Jack, he did really, really well. So when Neutron Jack was running the company, he would be asking CEOs, what are you going to do to get to that next level of product? How would you double your revenues? He'd regularly say, how are you going to double your revenues? How are you going to get to a 20% growth rate? And then what he did was he supported that by having his own version of what we call white space teams or blank space teams. Well, we generally are saying to somebody, if you have a business, you will have one white space team to maybe figure out a way to grow. And we talk about Virgin, which has multiple white space teams finding multiple businesses. Well, Welch was like that. In the 1980s, he started looking around and he said, you know what I need to do? I've got these divisions like jet engine division, locomotive division. He said, what are we going to do to get those to grow? And he'd ask the CEOs. And a lot of times he would get answers that were not real exciting. Well, we're going to cut costs, so we're going to make this adjustment, right? So he went to the best business schools in the world, and he would hire some of the best people. They didn't necessarily buy them out of business school. Sometimes they'd go to people graduate and they'd go to work for say, Boston Consulting Group or McKinsey and Company, or maybe an investment bank, or maybe a commercial bank, like Bank of America, someplace like that. And he'd find these clever people, and he'd say, if you come work for me and you come to Connecticut, we're going to put you on a team. And you'll have a responsibility for looking at a marketplace like locomotives and saying, what's the next big thing? So these were young people, but what he did was he gave them the room to think. He gave them white space. He said, you're not tied to that business, but figure out what that business could do. So then what would happen is he would go to meet with the head of the company, and he'd bring along this team of young people. He'd say, what's your opportunity to grow this business? And if the CEO didn't really have a bunch of opportunities, he'd turn to the young people and he'd say, have you seen opportunities for them to grow the business? And they'd say, well, yes, sir. I mean, what we've seen, of course, this is all pre-done, presentations are there. And they would present it to the president of the division. They'd say, here's some opportunities for you to grow by new technologies, regulatory change, et cetera. And the division head would be challenged. Well, are you going to be able to step up and make this happen? If the division head wasn't ready to make it happen, if he poo-pooed it, man, Welch had no problem firing the guy.
Yeah,
get it done. Get somebody in here that's ready to make it happen. We're going to grow this business. And he gave some of these young people at the age of 30 some pretty big responsibilities to some of these companies. He also had them look for the concerns. So when the Internet of Things came out, I don't know if you can remember this, the 2000 turn, this, we were all excited about IoT. Yeah. He did the same thing. He said, what's the implication of that going to be for my companies? And you know, he had them create teams. The destroyyourbusiness.com team is what he called it. I wanted you to go look and see what could a .com company do to destroy our businesses. And so then he would go in and these guys would present and we would say, oh, here's what some of these .com companies that had a lot of assets could do to really screw us up. Now, the CEOs of the divisions, got to admit, you know, this is not their happy place, right? They're running this big business. They had hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And here they're getting challenged by these teams of young people. But what Welch realized was you had to have these people outside the box thinking if you're going to really grow. And then he used that to challenge the leadership to get them to grow. And it was phenomenally successful. I mean, the value of the company just went up, 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 up. So then his handpicked successor in the year 2000 was a guy named Jeffrey Immelt. Jeffrey Immelt was an 1982 graduate of the Harvard Business School. He had worked at General Electric. His father was on the board of directors, and he'd worked at General Electric. And actually, when he was at business school, he was getting paid. He was an employee. And so he got his full paycheck. So he's living in a house with his wife and kids. And, you know, he wasn't a starving student, to put it mildly, in that situation. Goes back to work for GE. Now GE was paying for not just him, but some others to go at the time. That was a way GE did. Was another reason people wanted to work at GE, really treated their people well. But he's picked to get on the leadership ladder and to grow, and he did. And he grew and he ran several businesses, including GE Medical. But then in the year 2000, when he takes over General Electric, his point of view becomes that GE is too complicated, that only Jack Welch could run this, which I think was just a joke and an excuse. What do you mean Jack Welch is the only person who could run this? I think what he was just saying is he didn't know how to run it. He didn't know how these businesses that Welch got into. And he said he was going to make GE a simpler and easier to manage company. And he really did.
Well, he did to the point where he killed it.
Yeah. First thing he did was he fired all those guys in Connecticut, those white space teams. He said, we don't need that. I don't understand. You know, that's unnecessary. I was head of a division. I hated it. What happened when these guys would come meet with me. So I'm going to fire all those guys. And I'm going to tell the division heads they're back to being responsible for growing their business. Well, what that did was it changed the culture, because the culture under Welch had been grow, 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 grow. Yeah, you're going to make money. I expect you to be profitable. I expect you to work hard, but you've got to grow. If you can't grow top line, we can get out of this. Classic example is CalPERS was a company that was in the CAD/CAM business. And this company, this division of GE, $700 million revenue, and they used really expensive equipment to do the CAD/CAM business. And all Welch did, he was teed up by the team. He walks into a meeting with the CEO and the leadership team, and he says, hey, guys, what are you going to do about AutoCAD? A little company that's up in Sausalito. And the GE division was in San Jose. And he says, what are you going to do about these guys? And they said, well, that's a toy. That runs on a PC. Well, of course, the team had said, hey, the PCs are getting stronger and stronger, powerful. As they get more powerful, people won't need this really expensive system that GE has, the GE CAD/CAM business. And so whenever he asked the guys what they were going to do, they said, it's a toy. It's not important. Don't worry about it, Jack. And the story that I learned from the head of that division, that CAD/CAM division, was that on his way from the meeting in San Jose to the private jet to fly back to Connecticut, he got on the phone, made a call to the CFO and said, sell them. He said, they are pretending like this, that AutoCAD can't catch them. We can't keep that around. While we've got some money, we're going to sell them. That's Neutron Jack in action. When Immelt fires those guys, now he turns back to the division. All of a sudden, their life's a lot easier. Now there's not this big pressure on growing revenues. They're expected to come up with a long-term plan. And what he focuses on, what Immelt focuses on, are what are you doing for earnings? What are you doing to add to earnings?
Yeah.
And he doesn't pay attention to revenue. Well, as revenues start to lag, and as he doesn't have a team around helping him grow the business, what Immelt does is he starts selling the businesses. He's now making it simpler, right? And so you have to keep in mind, if you had a business that was started like locomotives, it's been around for a long time, a lot of the assets have been depreciated. You sell that business, you get a huge gain, you got a bigger earnings bump that comes out of it. So revenues are going down, but you're saying earnings are going up.
But how many times can you kill the golden goose, before you don't have any geese?
It's exactly correct. you're slowly killing off the eggs that you would use in order to have a growing business so that you'd have more geese or more hens going forward so you could grow your business. He starts selling it off. And so from 1980 until today, what did they do? Well, everybody, when I talk to people about GE, they think about a highly diversified, large organization. Immelt managed to sell GE Locomotive to Webtree. GE Appliance, he sold to Haier, H-A-I-E-R, Chinese company. So there are no GE appliances and haven't been for well over a decade and a half. GE Light Bulbs, that's Savant Systems. GE Capital is the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board, which is controlled by Sumitomo now. GE Real Estate is Blackstone. NBC Universal, which they went to a lot of work to get a hold of so they could grow the entertainment business, it's Comcast. GE Rail is the Marmon Group. GE Capital Aviation spun out to AirCap. GE Trailer Fleet sold to Arval. GE Water sold to Suez. GE Plastics sold to the Saudi Arabia Basic Industries, or SABIC. And GE Oil and Gas sold to Baker Hughes. And at this point, the board finally fires Immelt. If you'd have had $100 invested in GE when Immelt took over the company in the year 2000, by the time he's fired in 2018, after he's been allowed to just sell these businesses off, your stock would have been worth $7. 93% of the value of GE was destroyed.
Let's break it down, because I think it's really important for, I guess the backdrop is for our listeners and viewers. Yes, this is a complicated story about the fall of a giant. Yes, there's lots of moving pieces to it, but the fundamentals are the same. The fundamentals that Jack Welch and his predecessors and all the growth that was enjoyed by GE in the heyday and was subsequently squandered and sold off to the highest bidder, and of course today is the last day, there's lessons here. I think that one of the big lessons for any owner or operator or executive is who's challenging you? Who's challenging you? I mean, how many times, Adam, have we seen organizations that have an autocratic dictator style leader that if you dare to mention, hey, there's something going on here that might derail the company, that you have the propensity to be fired?
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And you should build a culture where you're allowed to say that. It's important for the longevity of your organization.
If you go back and look at the gurus, Jim Collins is the one I like to talk about the most. Jim Collins, if you go back to the turn of the century, 2000 up into 2005, 2006, he was given presentations for $100,000. He's getting paid a huge amount of money. He, of course, wrote Built to Last and Good to Great. These are books that a lot of people remember, Built to Last, Good to Great. You don't hear about Jim Collins anymore. I haven't heard about him for a long time. Well, why not? Because when he said the whole success business is to know your hedgehog concept. Know your focus on your core, right? Know what the one thing is customers want, and just get better and better and better in that. And he would be very, very vocal about saying you don't have room in an organization for all other voices. If somebody's challenging you all the time, get rid of them. One of the great stories was that when Dell was selling PCs as fast as you could hope to sell PCs, they were selling monitors. Well, they had to buy the monitors, right? And so there were some people that looked at this inside the company and they said, you know what? We should, in addition to selling PCs, and I know we're going down the road into servers, we get into the monitor business. So instead of cathode ray tubes, they could have been an early leader with flat screen LED monitors, and that would have gotten them eventually into the television business, like Sony and some other people, right? But Michael Dell believed very much in Jim Collins, and he said, no, that's a distraction. That's not our core business. And so consequently, we're not going to get into the monitor business. Well, I mean, let's look at what Dell is now. I mean, they went through a big flop, right? They flopped out. They got bought. They got taken private again because they got so cheap. And, today, what do? Are they the exciting company that they were back in the 19th?
No, they're a shell of who they were. No. But that was what happened was the gurus was saying, like Tom Peters wrote this famous book, In Search of Excellence. Again, this is, sort of the 1990s into the 2000s. And what he said was just be really, really good at what you do. And so he took the example. He said, if you make an office chair, you make a great office chair. And then he comes up with the story, which turned out he made up. It wasn't true, of a company that supposedly took an office chair, mounted it to some kind of a robot, and just ran the office chair, back and forth, over and around in circles for 24 hours a day until the chair fell apart. And they say, what broke? Oh, this wheel broke. Well, let's replace the wheels so we'll have better wheels. And then they run the robot again and again and again. And he said that makes them into a great company. They're in search of excellence of the world's best office chair, and that will make them a great company.
Well, okay, that was like Herman Miller. What happened to Herman Miller, right? Are they a great office supplier today? They're good, but they aren't that tremendous, right? So this in search of excellence and built to last and good to great was all about do one thing and do it really, really well. Don't necessarily look for revenue growth. Okay. The idea was if you're really good at something, it'll be fine. But that, of course, ignores the fact that the world changes. That the whole time you're busy making office chairs, people are slowly not going to the office. People are starting to work from home. People are going on the road, working, going to the customer, visiting the customer, being at the customer site. They're working remotely from their hotels, from the customer site, from their houses in order to get the job done. They're not sitting in an office 5 days a week, 9 hours a day, doing the work, needing a comfortable chair. In other words, the world is changing. And if you're just making office chairs, the demand for office chairs is going to go down. And so, and to the extent people want more of them, they're going to want small ones that fit in their houses, or small ones that fit the different way of working in teams, in conference rooms, sitting with other people when you really need to be in an office. That's where you need a great chair, not behind a desk. So, but again, Tom Peters and Jim Collins, they were just stuck. They wanted the senior leaders to be stuck on that focus on the core.
Yeah. And that exact phrase, Adam, and I mentioned this before in the past, is the torpedo that hit my business. Back in about 2015, 16, the market was changing. I brought together some advisors, and most of them were corporate people. And I said, this is what's happening. There's new things happening on the horizon. There's customers that are asking for our services in a different direction. And that loaded up, this torpedo and fired right at me. And they said, no, you have to focus on your core. And I told them, the voices that were my team, I said, I'm sorry, but my advisor said we have to focus on our core. The market's changed. And then within 3 years, my business that I started from scratch was tanked. Yeah. And so that's why I have so much passion for what we do here at Spark Partners, because if I would have known, if somebody would have come out, a little Adam Hartung genie would have come out of the bottle and said, no, don't focus on your core. Focus on where the market is. Focus on trends. Focus on where your customers are. It'd be a different story. Now, I don't live my life with regrets. I mean, it is what it is, and I've learned a lot. But I look at people now that are in a business that are stuck. And, we have a great course, Unlock Growth. We have a lot of things to share about getting stuck. Well, it looks like Immelt got stuck in his mode of thinking, ended up killing all the hens. And then, of course, we had fried chicken today for the last day, which is a good segue.
Okay, I want to come back to that. Let me just finish up the GE story, okay. Which was that by the time they fired Immelt, they didn't know what they wanted to do. They went through 3 CEOs in the course of a year and a half to 2 years. Finally, they made the decision they would shut it down. And in January the 4th of 2023, they spun out GE Healthcare, spun out into its own business. Then today, April the 2nd, 2024, they spun out the aerospace business, which is its own standalone company. The only thing left of GE was the turbine business and like windmills, and that is now called Vernova. So there is no longer a General Electric. And that's a shame. That's really a shame. And again, the big issue here, don't substitute earnings for revenues, because you can always buck up earnings short term. There's lots of tricks. Sell your assets, sell the business, cut costs. When I was working with corporations, they would regularly come in with a regular layoff so they could cut costs so that the head of the company could get his bonus, right? Because he had an earnings target to make. Well, what we're teaching people is earnings are the result of good business decisions. Good business decisions lead you into revenues that grow, that sustain your company. If you're doing that, you're growing your company, you're sustaining your revenues, you're making your 10% target plus, then you're going to have the earnings that you need to be able to be successful long term. But now let's go back again to killing the eggs and eating the chickens, as you put it. Which our audience is sitting out there like, what are they laughing about?
Yeah. So the story is here that when I was in college, there was a particular restaurant that I really enjoyed. It was kind of a treat. I was a starving student. I worked my way through college, and it was kind of a rare treat that I'd get the ability to go and have a nice dinner at Boston Market. And so we all know that Boston Market, at least when I was growing up and in college, it was a great place, great value, good food. I'd go there even for the holidays, right? You could get a turkey dinner and whatnot. So let's talk about what happened to Boston Market, and kind of dovetail into the parent brand, of course, which was McDonald's. And then there's the other offshoot, which is Chipotle. So let's put that all in an omelet and talk about that.
Well, a lot of people don't know today that actually both Chipotle and Boston Market were owned by McDonald's. That what happened if you wound the clock back in 1998, Chipotle had 16 restaurants, and the CEO of McDonald's is a guy named Jack Greenberg. And Jack looked around at McDonald's and he said, okay, let's look at what we really have here. There are McDonald's hamburger joints everywhere in the world. Really and truly, they are everywhere in the world by that point, by the year 1998, going to the year 2000. And he says, I don't see really the growth prospects. We've got dollar menus. Every time we try to branch out and do something, what happens is it's very difficult because our brand is so heavy-handed. There's Big Macs and Quarter Pounders, and people know what we have. And we try to branch out. We're not that successful. So what we need to do is we need to move the company so that we have other things to sell. And that's when he finds Chipotle, which only has 16 restaurants in 1998, and he starts investing in Chipotle. Then he says, I think there's going to be something here, this fast casual, and I think that getting into somewhere where the food is fresh and it's different, with the Mexican theme and that kind of a thing. He's like, I think this is onto something. And he keeps investing in Chipotle as Chipotle keeps growing. Eventually he ends up owning the entirety of the company pretty much. Just a few shares left with the original CEO. And so that's a good story because at the same time, he sees what's happening with what's called Boston Chicken. And he sees the same idea, whereas Chipotle was geared for a lunch crowd, and it was geared for maybe more of an urban environment initially where people could go have a little better than average lunch. The Boston Chicken franchise was really well, not just at lunch, but at dinner. It got a lot of people picking up, as you said, the dinner business. So it's a fast casual. So you've got Applebee's in, you've got Chili's that are growing. These are, Outback Steakhouse was coming on the scene. These were the people that were growing. And he sees, I can take this Boston Chicken and I can turn it into Boston Market, which is what literally happened. And you'll be able to go get a full meal, and you could take your family and have a fast casual. Or the second part of this is you could get the food and you could bring the food home. So if you're a working family and the two parents in the house say, tonight I want something, you're not just stuck buying pizza. You could have something beyond pizza without breaking the bank, right? And it's not KFC. It's not fried. It's a rotisserie chicken. And at that time, today, I think every grocery store in the United States has rotisserie chickens, but at that time they didn't. It was a bit of a novelty still. Much lower calorie than fried chicken. And, but stayed warm. It was really good because it could be cooked, and it was really good for the next 6 hours, and you could put it in the oven and it would stay good for 3 or 4 hours in the oven, stay warm without getting all dried out. And, of course, you have mashed potatoes and creamed spinach and the whole family thing to go along with it. So this is Jack Greenberg, and he's really trying to grow the company. Well, he can't stay CEO forever, so it doesn't take very long. There's some shakeups, and the new CEO comes in, and his name is Jim Skinner. And he comes in, and he comes up with a thing he called Plan to Win. And he says, we're doing away with McDonald's is McDonald's. McDonald's is great. McDonald's is wonderful. And we're going to have a plan to win with McDonald's. And he spins out Chipotle, sells it off to the marketplace. Then he takes Boston Market, and he basically quits investing in it. He says, you guys are going to have to stand on your own, figure out what you want to do, but you got to contribute money to my plan to win. Because my plan to win isn't for Boston Market to win, it's for McDonald's to win. So what happens is the people at Boston Market suddenly have a clamp on them. The fresher food that they had, the bigger chickens that they had, the things they had that made them a fast casual, really delightful place, they start looking at how do we cut costs. Smaller chickens. Quality of ingredients starts to go down. Quality of portions starts to go down. They don't come up with any new innovations. The menu doesn't change. Same menu year after year after year after year after year, which now causes people to say, I'm getting tired of that. Wish I had something new there. Maybe they could spice up the chicken or something, but they're just not doing anything new. So now what do we see has happened? Okay. This in 2000, so they spun out Chipotle in 2006 and went off on its own. They hung on to Boston Market, but they didn't invest in it. They didn't try to grow because it took all the money out of that they could to try to grow McDonald's. How did this work out? Well,
let's find out.
In 2006, Chipotle gets spun out. It goes public $42 a share. Right now, it is trading at $2,900 a share. If you had bought that stock, you're up 70-fold, 70-fold in 18 years. I mean, we talk about 10 baggers going up tenfold. This is 70-fold.
Yeah,
and
that's
now,
remarkable.
it wasn't all clean and easy. They had some problems in there a couple of times with some food that was bad. They got in trouble. Some of the processes weren't good. They were buying local products, and the local products some of them weren't as clean as they needed to be. And so people got sick. So they went through some rough times a decade ago getting their operations worked out the way they wanted to grow. But they did it, right? They were out there competing in the marketplace, competing to win. So up against the competition, they said, we're going to have to make this work out. Boston Market, they're not competing anymore. They're feeding cash into McDonald's. Right now, if you have Chipotle's, you're up 70-fold. If you have Boston Market, well, that's what McDonald's has, and they have one restaurant left. One in Newark, New Jersey. The rest of them are all gone. A lot of our people out there are probably like, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I haven't seen a Boston Market in a long time, right? But it disappeared out from London. Now, did that feeding McDonald's really work out well?
Not so much.
McDonald's was trading for 35 in 2006. It now trades for 275. You're up 8-fold. So you killed off Boston Market in order to try to get McDonald's better off, but you did about 10% as good as the guys did with Boston Chipotle's. So once again, by trying to defend and extend the business you have, by trying to stay there where you are, and then taking advantage of assets to feed a business that's off trend, it just doesn't work out. I'm not saying people are going to quit eating at McDonald's. I mean, it is an institution. It's personally not my fare. I don't think I've eaten at McDonald's for over 10 years. But, it serves a purpose. It's in a place. But the trends have been going against it for a long time. The trends about kind of the food and healthiness of food. We know that going to eat French fries that are cooked in the kind of what they call bad fats, right? Not the monounsaturated fats that are healthy for you, like avocado oil, grapeseed oil, or peanut oil, but rather cook the cottonseed oil and those kinds of oils. That's where you're getting your fats, the bad ones that are unhealthy. Of course, we know, even though we all like to eat meat in the United States, I'm sorry, not all, but most people want to eat meat. Hamburgers not healthy for you, right? So we don't have a chain that's got a lot of healthy options out there. And they're trying to just keep it alive. What's the other truth? In 2014 to 2018, there was a war on about how much you're going to pay McDonald's employees. Because we knew that people working at McDonald's did not make a living wage. So people, men and women who've gone to work there as fry cooks, and they try to get a little education, and like you, working their way through school, trying to get some education, they're working on the line, but they're not getting ahead. And they're not making enough money to have a living wage. So if they graduate from school or they end up dropping out because they're working 2 jobs, the graduates end up working 2 jobs. Now they're maybe, working at a hotel as a night manager, trying to do hamburgers in the morning or in the afternoon. So that trend now going against them. With the population demographics, which we talk about real regularly, there's not enough people to man those fryers, right? So what's happened is the cost of those employees has gone up. In California, this week, the law went into effect that fast food chains now have to pay their employees $20 an hour. That's California pushing for a living wage. Yep. So that means the cost of a McDonald's meal is going to get up there, in that 20. You're trying to bring your family in, you're going to pay as much to eat there as you will at Applebee's.
Right. And you said something a second ago that is interesting. You said McDonald's is an institution. But just think about 20, 30 years ago, GE was an institution.
Yep.
Right. And so it just takes some bad leadership to make some quote unquote cost cutting decisions or to buck what is happening in the market. And there could be a day when there is no more McDonald's. I mean, it's hard to imagine, but it was also hard to imagine that GE wouldn't be around the way it
right. Well, Toys R Us, Sears, right? Kodak, Xerox, Wonder Bread. There's a lot of stuff that used to be out there. Radio Shack that isn't there anymore, right? Well, why is that? Because when these businesses were started, people looked at customer needs and they had their value proposition. We are serving a customer need. That creates value. Then they get busy running the business and they say, well, I'm not going to really think about customers and value. I'm thinking about how do I run my value delivery system to make more money? So, the guys at McDonald's are like, how do we keep McDonald's stores very successful? Well, you can't. You reach the end of the life cycle. People, their food desires change. The way they eat changes. The experience they want to have changes. Family needs change. Demographics change. Certainly at my age, it's recommended I never eat at a McDonald's because the food is against my heart, it's against my liver, everything about it. But at my age, it's a bad idea for me to eat in that place. So as all these things are working against your trend, what's the best idea? Get on another trend. So the right idea was to do like Greenberg did. Go buy a Chipotle's, then take the money from McDonald's to build Chipotle's and go to your franchises and say, listen, franchise, you got to tell you something. The McDonald's franchise is going to do great, but use the money from your McDonald's to buy a Chipotle. So let me sell you a Chipotle franchise. Yeah. That's the next big thing. So now you'll be able to make some cash out of McDonald's. And if that doesn't do so good, we'll figure it out, but it'll get smaller on you. But that's going to be okay because your Chipotle business is going to grow like crazy, right? And they could have managed that to where they moved into a different direction. And that's what I think we just keep trying to get people to understand. You're never going to stop trends. Trends happen. We talk about trends in terms of demographics, how people get paid, all kinds of stuff, work from home. You got to pay attention to those trends because the world changes. If you're trying to defend and extend your own business, if you're trying to keep that old delivery system alive in the face of new delivery systems, that's a death knell. I mean, Toys R Us couldn't compete. Sears couldn't compete with electronic commerce, with Amazon. Walmart really can't compete with them, right? Walmart's going nowhere while Amazon stock's doing great.
Yeah.
So this is the message we're bringing across. You don't have little, smaller, mid-sized companies, which are the people we love and work with every single day. I always try to tell them, look, if these behemoths are dying, then obviously what does it tell you? Don't act like them. Don't follow them. They got it wrong. They got the assumptions wrong. They focused on earnings. They focused on the wrong stuff. If you're a small and mid-sized business, go after those revenues. Go after those revenues.
And it all scales down. The magic of all this is it all scales down. You might have a $1 million business and you think that we're talking about these 1, 10, $1 billion businesses. It's just more zeros, same problems, same decisions. As a matter of fact, you have a lot of things going for you. If you're small, you make changes and they can have a very immediate effect. You don't have a lot of potentially stakeholders to worry about. You're not public. So there's so much to be learned from looking at these giants and looking at them fall. Yes. And as sad as it is that I will never have a Boston Market chicken meal again.
Or buy a GE light bulb.
Or buy a GE light bulb. Yeah. I mean, all these things, it's just the way it is. And you have to just look forward, look at the trends, look at the market, and follow where your customers are going.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Manny.
All right. Very good, Adam. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Cheers.